Okay, let's draw. Okay, if you remember last time we were working on this window frame. So what we want to do, I want to attach this window frame to the body of this aircraft. And part of the reason I want to do that is so that we know our seams are going to line up for one, and we'll just make this window frame basically part of the aircraft body. To do this, what we're going to want to do is we're going to go to Object Mode. We're going to deselect that window frame if it's selected like mine was. We're going to left click on the body. Okay, and then we're going to hold Shift and left click on the window frame. Unless you got yours set up for right click again. I like mine set up for left, but I think Blender comes with it on the right. Okay. Let's go into edit mode. Now if you notice, whoa, wait a minute, let's go back to object mode. Okay, now what I'm going to do is click Control J and then deselect. Now what we did is we actually used the body as of the airplane as a parent object, and we attached the frame as a child object to the body. Or, in another way of saying it is, as far as Blender is concerned, this is one object now. The window frame and this body is one object, even though they're not connected together. They're basically one object. If I move that body of that airplane, it'll move. The cowling's not attached yet. I haven't attached that cowling yet. So the cowling is a separate object from the body of this airplane. Okay, let's get back to this. Now let's go to let's go to edit mode. And we can push Z. And what I want to do is I want to zoom in here. Okay. Now, I've been using the box, and I kind of like the box. The box kind of gives you some control here. But I'm going to show you another way of grabbing these vertices too. Okay. We're going to grab these vertices and push Z, and we're going to bring this up right about to there where we're going to we want that dot basically lined up with the bottom of that window frame there. Okay, and push A. And we're going to push 3, and what we did, actually that's not too awful bad, but if you kind of notice up in here, this frame twists around a little bit. And again, we can box here, and we want to bring our cursor kind of out to the edge of the screen. We're going to push S for scale on the Y, and we're going to just bump this just a hair so it's kind of more straight on the sides here. And that looks pretty close. Push A and come back to the side. Okay, now I'm going to show you how we're going to connect these things together and build the rest of this frame in here easily. Okay, the little trick I want to show you is if you hold shift down, and I'm pushing my right mouse button. Is it the left mouse button? No, dang it. Select it. Should be shift right button. Control right button. Oh, it's okay, I'm wrong. It's not shift, it's control. So I held down control, and while I was holding control, I pushed down my right mouse button, and I drew a little circle around those dots. And of course, if you have it set up for your right click select, then you would have to hold down the left key on your mouse button to do this. And since I have it transparent, you notice I grabbed both of these dots that are in line. Okay, I'm going to push E for extrude, Z, because I want to extrude this down. What I'm actually extruding, the dot, the two vertices. Okay, now I'm going to come at an angle. And it doesn't really matter if I push Z, you can see the gray. Okay, because that picture's kind of dark behind it. I'm going to push A to unselect that. Okay, again, I'm going to push Control. I'm going to draw a little circle around that, and I'm going to catch that one vertice. Because we're going to do one side at a time on this one. Okay. Then I'm going to push Control again. Hold down my right button. Okay, now if you notice, I'm on the right side of the airplane, and I grab these two vertices, and I grab the top one first and the bottom one last. Now, if I push my W button, you get this little sub-menu, and we come up to merge. We could also hit Alt-M, which is a hotkey. If you hit the Alt and the M, you'll get the same thing, but I like hitting the W because the W just does it just as good. I'm going to click on merge. Oh, why didn't it give me that? Alt-M. I also don't know why it's not giving me. It should say merge, and it should give me two more. It should give me at last and at first also, and it's not. I'm not interested in merging a cursor because it would take both of these dots and pull them down to the cursor. Let's merge them at the center. This one's probably not that big of a deal. Deselect them, or we'll have to manually move the lines. Okay, and I'll come over to the left side. We're going to grab that one. We're going to grab that one. We're going to push W. Merge at center. And then we can push 1. And what we can do, go Z. And either box, which is B, we'll box them. Okay, now we can grab them on the Z and we can bring it back down a little bit to right about there. Push A. Okay, now another thing I want to do is I can actually grab this whole line. Grab that whole line. And we can do this easy way. We'll just grab this whole line this way. And then we're going to push S for scale on the X. Push our 0. And I'm so far out you didn't see it, but what it actually did is I just lined this frame line up completely top to bottom. It's lined up straight up and down because it was just a little bit offset. We're going to push A. Okay, and then we're going to come over here and we're going to put save as. We're going to change this 7 to an 8 because we're doing big changes. And then if it gets screwed up, it will, if it gets screwed up, it will kind of unscrew it up. Okay, what I want to do now, I want to grab these 3 in the middle here, okay? And again, sometimes it makes sense. I can draw it invisible. Sometimes it makes sense to hit the Z, and then you can kind of see what the body parts are doing while you're doing this. Okay, let's come back to 1. Let's push E for extrude, Z, and it's going to bring those 3 lines straight up. We want to kind of line it up to this window here. Push A, push Z again. Let's box around this one right here. Let's push Z again, and let's just push G for grab, and on the Z axis, and then we're going to bring that up just a little bit. Start working on that little curve in the window there. Okay. Okay. And if you look, it's exactly straight, which we actually aren't going to want these exactly straight. But again, we're going to pull some little tricks to kind of fix that. And one of the tricks we're going to do, now we can look at the top too, which the top don't show you those 3. And let's box and grab this. Box and grab this. Box and grab this. Let's come around here. Shift it up. Okay, box, grab this one. Box. So the thing I like about boxing is if you push the B, it doesn't unselect. The other little trick I showed you with the pushing the control and holding it down is sometimes you can unselect other things while you're doing that. Okay, so now if we go scale on the Y, we can bring that in a little bit, lean out of here. And as you can see, that kind of mates it more like at the angle of the window. And we might have to play around. This is where it's good, where you can start looking at these things at different angles. Okay, let's go back to 1. It's kind of good that you can do these things at different angles, and then it starts making a little bit more sense. But you can get your angles, and you don't have no funky ankles, you know. And because again, we almost need to control right. Come over this one, control right. Okay. Then we can get Shift Y, bring that flush and flat a little bit, and then you can kind of look at it, see if it's flush, which it actually is a little bit. But now we push A, and we'll grab this one. See, and I click that right button, so that cursor just clicked, which you most time when you're drawing on this stuff, you can just click this thing up out of the way. But you got to remember, if you bring in another object, it's going to bring it in where you put that thing up there. So I'll center it again in a little bit, but right now it's not really in the way. Okay, now we can push Shift and Y again, and we can bring this down a little bit. And we can look, and I almost brought it down too much, I think. So we can shift it out, Shift Y, and bring it out a little bit again. So if you play with these a little bit, you can get it pretty darn close, or even sometimes you can make them darn near perfect. It's pretty close. And what's funny too is you have a lot of little minor distortion in this thing. Once we actually auto smooth this out, you're going to be shocked. It's going to look pretty much round. You know, because sometimes you can beat yourself up. It's like you can run around this thing and you can lower these vertexes from one side, and then you can go to the front view, then it don't look right, and you widen it, and you can nitpick on it, and sometimes you can just nitpick it, and it'll never really look perfect. Okay, so now I'm going to show you a little trick here. Actually, what I think I'm going to do is we're going to go to line mode. Okay, and I'm going to select this line, and I'm going to push Shift, and I'm going to select this line and this line, and we're going to push F and push A. And if you notice what we did, we actually just drew a face in here. Now part of the problem with this face is that this face is at a different angle here from our top and bottom, but I think I got a way we can kind of blend that out. Let's push A to deselect that. Okay, let's come over here and let's select this one, Shift, select, same thing, push the F, push the A. Okay, we got two faces in there, and we know probably can't really see it from the side. We could probably see it from the top. We put 0. We know that doesn't really go that way. So come back to vertex mode. Okay, let's take inbox. So you can actually just click on that dot too. Left click on the dot and shift left click. I usually like boxes because when you click, and then if there's one exactly below it, that's usually why I rotate them a little bit too. Foofers, lay down. Or go look at it. Okay, anyway, what I was saying is I usually rotate this thing around. Make sure that there's no other dots picked, because if you pick another dot and you don't realize it, or if you got this in gray mode, like we push the Z and gray it up, and then you have a dot somewhere down in the middle here selected too, what happens is when you're moving this stuff around, you end up moving that dot also, and then it makes a mess. That's one of the reasons I save it a bunch too. Okay, let's take the Z. Let's grab on the x-axis and let's move that back just about there. Okay. And let's deselect. Okay. Now we got this face here. Look from the front. Now the problem with this, see, we're looking from the front. We have our cowling in the way. We can angle it a little bit. Okay, now what we do now is we actually we go back to line mode. We select this line. I angled it so you can see it. Then we push Shift. We select this line. We push F again. Put a face right across the straight there. A. Okay, now we could either leave this way, which might be actually advantageous to leave this way, or a trick we could do if we wanted to make this one piece. And I would suggest if you actually wanted to make this one piece, you would want to, if you actually wanted to make this one piece, you would want to make sure it's flush. Otherwise, you start getting really funky shading problems. Like we're going to have minor ones where we have these two where we have this slightly angled, because there's not too much we can do about this other than we can go to vertex mode again, and we could go push Z and we can box these vertices, and then we could basically grab them on the X and move them just slightly out to where they basically where you're eyeballing the line and you're trying to put that line basically straight. Z, and then you take a look at it. That kind of brought that there. I think I'm actually going to leave that shape in there, even though one of the things that you almost, what I've been told is a no-no, and I don't know if it's in Blender or not, is supposedly you don't really want triangles, and like this is a perfect triangle, and there's a couple ways around having a triangle anywhere in a model. So far, and as far as I know and can see, that's the only triangle in this whole model. And one thing we can do here is we can push Control R. And why is it? Oh, it's giving me one down here, but it's not giving me one up here. Okay, let's go Control Z. Let's go away from that. Control Z. Or A. Right click, there we go. I was trying to put a loop cut across this triangle, and it's not letting me for some reason. It'll let me down here, but it's not letting me up on here, and I don't know why that is. It should be doing that. Okay, and one thing I'm going to do, and something you should do quite frequently actually, push Z, push your B, box this whole thing. Okay, push your T, And then come down on here. Should be in Tools up here if you're not in Tools. Almost to the bottom, that you see Remove Doubles, and you click on that. And it said 0, so that's good. We didn't have any doubles. I'm going to push my T, push my Z, push my A to deselect that. Oh, that Chihuahua. I love him, but I wish he would just quit with the... He gets pretty silly. Okay, now, as you'll notice, this window frame here goes a little bit. Let's go Z. Let's box this. Let's grab it to the X, and let's drag it a little bit forward here to meet that line. Let's leave that there for the moment. Okay, let's come on this again. Let's box these. Except for that's going to raise our window up, which we don't want to do. We want to push 1. We want to push A. We want to deselect that. Z again. Hold on just a second. Foofers! Shut up! Lay down. Okay. And again, I'm probably already coming up on 30 minutes, and then we haven't hardly done anything, but I did show you how to connect these. So now we want to actually let's make this invisible again. Let's box this. Let's grab these two. Let's go extrude to the X. Drag these out. Push A. And wait, letting me connect at the last, which I don't like. So let's grab these. Let's box these again. Let's grab these on the Z. Let's bring them up. And what we're wanting to do is we're wanting to eyeball these real close. So we'll zoom in a little bit. We want to get kind of parallel. Okay, let's grab these on the X again. Let's drag them this way. You can actually grab them to the line. You could zoom all the way in. Okay, we're zooming in, and as you notice, I zoomed all the way in, and we're still not on that line, even though as we're backed out, it looks like we're on the line. So we're going to grab them on the X again. We're going to go just a hair. We're going to go to that line. Okay, now we're going to grab them and go Z, and we're going to line them up with those other dots. We're going to zoom all the way in again. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Okay, and I have it pretty much on, it's over the top of that other dot. Now we're going to angle it, and we're going to see, because if you notice, they're not, if you go to 7, which is above, since they're straight out, they're nowhere near where those dots are. Even though they're lined up from the side, but they're not lined up from the top. So we could either do them one at a time, or if we do them, we got them both selected. If I push Scale, which is this, and on the Y, I should be able to drag that pretty much into that line right there. And then if I angle it, you should notice that's where we're trying to go. And if you look on the other side, should be pretty much in the same place. So we'll go back to 7. I'll actually zoom all the way down here. Now look, we actually went just a hair past it. Okay, let's put S for Scale again on the Y, and let's bring it back down to where we see I'm zoomed all the way in, and put it right on top of there. Okay, and let's check our top line here. Should be in the same, basically the same spot, and it is. See if you get offset, you start maybe scale Y just a hair. Okay, it should be close enough that when we join them, it's not going to make this a lot different. Okay, so now what you can do here is if you go box, you grab them both. You notice we have a yellow line to the left, yellow line to the right, yellow line down. That's showing you have both vertices, because if you only had one, you would either see the line to the left or you would see the line to the right and the one line to the bottom. And if we push W, merge, hit center, didn't even look like it moved because it's basically in the same spot. So we just made that one vertice, so there's not two there anymore. Same thing over here. We come over here, and we'll draw a box, and we'll go like this. We'll select those two, and we'll push W, merge, hit center. Okay, we just joined them, even though I had them so close that you can't tell. Okay, now if we deselect, now one of the ways that you can check this is we push Z, and you'll notice there's no walls there. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to box around this, and then I want to box around this, box around this, and we'll go from 7, and we're going to scale to the Y, and we're going to move that in a little bit. Kind of line it up with the other line here. Okay. And then if you'll notice, what that does is it actually twists our window frame, but it twists it in a way that it's, this is like I said, where you got to kind of start, let's go Z, let's box this one, Z again. It twists it in a way that it's going to be angled with the frame, and we're going to have to play around with it because it's like twisting sheet metal. We're actually going to, as you notice, the top up here is kind of twisted too, so we're going to twist these vertices until our window frame is basically angled inward from the front and angled kind of towards the back. But the back will, in real life, you would kind of have it shaped that way, and then you would have the back end. Of course, it ain't going to be paper thin like this. The back end would have a lip around it. It might be pretty skinny, but it wouldn't be paper thin. It wouldn't be like just a chunk of sheet metal up there. It would actually be maybe sheet metal with framing and stuff. It's gonna be a frame. So we're gonna play around with this. Again, the more we play with it and then we look at it, we'll get it to where it looks pretty decent. And then, like I said, you'll be surprised once we actually shape it and we smooth it, it's going to take on a whole different effect. Okay, we're going to push S and Y. We're going to scale that in a little bit until that line's kind of lined up from the top. And that's one of the tricks we're going to use is we're going to get this bottom part of the frame where it's kind of lined up with itself. Okay, now another thing I noticed here, what we actually need to do, go Z, we might have actually, B and grab on the Z, we might actually bring that up a little bit. And box this one and grab it, Z, bring it down a little bit. And we'll keep playing with it. I just want to basically finish it for the time being. We almost got the frame finished here, and then we're gonna. I think in next session we're gonna play with the twisting it more into a real shape. We're pretty close right here. Okay. What I was wanting to do, which is Z. Let's put a loop cut in here. Go Control R. A, and then if you only push A once, now see I can slide this up and down this and it doesn't distort the shape at all. The only problem is, I think if I push 1, yeah. Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. Control Z. Okay, that took it out. Let's push 1. Okay, I want to put the loop cut in here, but what it does is anytime you loop cut on a face, it's going to put it in the center first. I don't want it in the center. I want to slide it down. But I need the reference of the side picture, so I got to redo this. Control R. Push the left click button, slide it down. Right about, let's see, let's make this window a little bit, let's compromise a little bit, because I think some of this is shading, which is almost too bad. Our bar was almost where we wanted it, but not quite. Let's go right about, let's go right about there. Okay, now a little trick here that I'm going to show you. Little trick I think I'm going to show you. So I want to loop cut this other side. Should do both of them, but I don't think it does. I think it only does one, which is kind of a pain in the butt, because I actually I'm going to have to put a loop cut in this other side. And there's no way I can do it looking through that frame. I'd actually have to move that picture down. Which I don't want to do. So let's see, how do we do this? Let's go Control Z, Control Z. Okay, let's go Z and open it up. Let's try it this way. Let's see if it'll double loop cut it here. Let's go Control R. Push A. Come down to here. Like I said, right about. Right about there. Now yeah, that's what I thought. Let's push A. Okay, now let's go Control R on this back one. Push A. And bring it down, and that's kind of irritating me. Yeah, it's not where I want it. See, and now if I grab it, so I think you push Alt. Grab Alt maybe? The problem with Grab Alt is that I'm just grabbing it out in space. See, I wanted to slide it across there. It's got to be a different way of doing this. Oh, okay, I think I know how to do this. Let's push 1. Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. Actually, just get rid of that loop cut. Instead of loop cutting it, since it's giving me such a problem with the loop cut thing. Let's take and go to face mode. See? Let's select this face and delete it. Select this face and delete it. Same with this, delete. Same with this, delete. Okay. Okay, now what I want to do is go back to vertex mode. And I want to grab, actually we can just go sideways like this. Go Z, we can go do our box. Go back to Z if we want to. This is how we're going to do this. We're going to go extrude to the Z. Right about there, and then we're going to go grab to the X, and we're going to come in here. And we're going to grab to the Z and come down a little bit. We're going to grab to the X. We're going to come right back right about there where that thing, where those lines, front lines are pretty much straight. Okay, now what we did was we just extruded that whole mess, but what I want to do now, go back to face mode, select this face, delete it, and then I have my dots where I want them. So if I come back here, and actually, if I take now and go to line mode, and let's select, let's go slightly at an angle, let's select this line, shift select this line right here, shift grab, there we go, shift it down a little bit, and now we're going to grab, shift this line and this line, and I can do it from this from an angle, or I can just show you from and do this from an angle, or I can do it straight up and down. I'll show you from an angle. Now, if we push F and then A, we just made our spar again. Okay, now let's go to this side. I'm going to do this, finish this, connecting it up, and then do this video. Okay, so I want to left click on this line up here, shift click on this second one, and click and click. So I got the 4, and then push F, then A. Okay. Now, let's go back from the side. Okay, I want to go back to vertex mode and Z. I want to box in these vertexes. Push Z again. Okay, I want to grab this on the X a little bit and come more about right underneath that. Grab it maybe on the Z, bring it up a little bit, and I want to push A. Okay. Now what I want to do is let's see, let's try one side on this. Let's go back to lines. This line, this line, and this line. Push the F, A, And the only heartburn I have with this now is what I was trying to show you. If I fill this in, it's going to make a triangle. So to avoid that, or actually you can make a triangle, but if you put 4 lines in it, even if it's a perfect triangle, then it thinks of it as a box. So a trick to that is we put a loop cut here, Control R, and it'll be dead center. And why I don't mind that is because if I just put one on the other side, it'll be dead center. And I'm not adjusting it, so I don't have to try to guess it. Okay, so now if I select this line and shift and select this line and this line, it's going to make my triangle, but there's 4 lines in it. So like I said, as far as Blender knows, it's a square. In a sense, it's not a triangle, even though it is a triangle, but it has 4 dots in it. So if we click F, then A, then we have that there. Oh, and one thing we didn't do that I do want to do down here is same thing. We're gonna click. We're gonna select this line, this line, this line, this line. You don't have to select them all, but it's good if you do sometimes. Click F and A, and we have a face there. And so there's certain ways you can play around with this, make sure they're flat, or they might be bent a little bit. You can see a little bit of distortion in here, but we'll work on that in the next lesson. And we just repeat the process over here. And we click. See, we need a loop cut here. Control R. Click A. Left click A. Okay. So now we can select this line. We're still in line mode. Shift this line and this line. Click an F and an A, and then we can click this line, shift this line and this line, and click an F and then an A, and then we have that matched up with this. Let's come over here. Let's select this line, this line, this line, this line, and this line. Let's put an F, let's put a face in it, A. Okay, now what I want to do, since we pretty much got that frame together, File, Save As, we already changed it to 8. I want to save it as 8. There we go, so we have that. Now, just to show you kind of what I'm talking about here, let's push our T, and let's go into Shading. You got Tools, Create, and Shading. Let's go into Shading. And let's go on this top faces, and let's click Smooth. And actually, I wonder if we need to go to Object Mode to do this. Let's try this. Let's go to Object Mode. Okay. Oh, and it just says Shading. Let's go Smooth. Okay. And let's go over here on this one where it says Normals, and let's go Auto and Double-Sided. And like I said, as you see, actually, even though it has a little bit of distortion in it, you can see the little bit of distortion we'll have to work with. But for the most part, and you can kind of see it actually helps you with the shading a little bit. You can kind of see where the distortion is because of the way the shading is working. So that shows you where we actually have to bend around the vertices a little bit. But if you were to take this and more or less UV map it and throw rivets on it and stuff, once we play around with the shape a little bit, this thing will be pretty much, once we get these surfaces flat with each other and take out that distortion, and even that little part on the front where it has the little flat surfaces, the 3 triangles, that doesn't actually really look bad. That would be pretty similar to actually probably how they would make a frame. to fit on a round surface, and then convert it into more or less like a flat window with a little bit of a bend in it. So we will go to, this is lesson 11, so in lesson 12 we will work with taking the distortion out of that, and then if we have enough time I'll even put in some texture glass, show you what that glass would kind of look like in this thing. Which actually in this it just looks more or less kind of like a bluish color, but when you actually render it or put it in an animated scene, it will actually look like glass. It'll have a glass glare, and it'll be transparent where you can actually look down into the cockpit through it, and so on and so forth, which is what we're going to want when we put this in the game. So what I want to do now is I want to push my T, and then we'll just leave this like this for now, and then in the next lesson we'll turn the shading back off so we can go into our flat surfaces and stuff. But as you can see, this is starting to look like an aircraft, which is cool. It's getting me a little bit excited there. And thanks for watching. We will talk to you next lesson.